Welcome to Max Premieres. Today I'm bringing you 12 films that have everything to be the most talked about of the year. And I mean that. There's something for everyone. Action, romance, horror, auteur drama. My take is completely honest. We're going worst to best. And if something doesn't convince me, I'll say it straight. If you find that useful, it would help me a lot if you left a like and subscribed. Thanks so much for your support. Number 12. Mother Mary. Anne Hathaway plays a pop superstar in the middle of an identity crisis who abandons her tour and shows up unannounced at the door of her estranged best friend Sam, played by Michaela Coel, the fashion designer who built her entire public image. The two haven't seen each other in 10 years, and what starts as an uncomfortable reunion becomes something far more intense and difficult to categorize. Long-buried wounds surface in ways neither anticipated when they agreed to reconnect on the eve of Mary's comeback concert. David Lowery directs with a kind of poetic visual signature that defined A Ghost Story and The Green Knight. This is not a comfortable film and not an easy one to process, which is precisely what makes it interesting. Original music from Jack Antonoff, Charlie XCX, and FKA Twigs gives it a genuinely unique sonic identity, and Hathaway performs every song and character convincingly. Reviews were divided, but nobody disputes the chemistry between the two leads or the film's ambition, one that stays with you. Number 11. The Rip. $204 million in cash inside an abandoned safe house in Miami. That's what detectives Dane Dumars and J.D. Byrne find during what was supposed to be a routine narcotics operation. The law says they have to stay and count every bill before they leave, and while they're counting, word about the seizure starts getting out. From that moment on, the night becomes a survival situation, where trust between lifelong partners starts fracturing under pressure neither of them expected to face. Director Joe Carnahan brings the same energy as the classic 70s cop thrillers. He openly loves films like Serpico and Prince of the City and Heat. Matt Damon and Ben Affleck have a real decade-spanning friendship that translates directly on screen without any of it feeling performed or manufactured. Stephen Yeun, Kyle Chandler, and Teyana Taylor round out a solid ensemble. The film debuted at number 1 on Netflix and held that spot for 2 consecutive weeks. Number 10. Apex. Charlize Theron and Jack Lowden together in an action thriller. That's already enough to get my attention. Theron proved with Mad Max and Atomic Blonde that she knows how to carry this type of character without it ever feeling forced. That mix of apparent fragility and real toughness is genuinely hard to pull off. And Lowden has been quietly building serious momentum. Apex follows a former agent who has to get back in the game when a threat forces her out of the retirement she worked so hard to earn. The setup is familiar, sure, but when the cast is genuinely there, the genre delivers. Early footage looks well produced, and the pace seems agile. The big question is always the screenplay. The cast is secondary if the story doesn't hold up, and that's where a lot of similar films have stumbled. For an action night on Netflix, this is shaping up well. It doesn't need to be the film of the year to be worth your time. Number 9. Forbidden Fruits. Indie horror either grabs you in the first few minutes or you drop it at 20 and never come back. That's just how this works. Forbidden Fruits comes from Shudder, which is basically the platform that takes author-driven horror most seriously right now by a wide margin. The premise has that folk horror element that's been working so well lately, the unsettling idea that the supernatural is rooted in the land itself, in the dark traditions of a specific place that follows its own logic. The team behind it has solid credentials in the genre, and Shudder doesn't usually bet on mediocre projects. If it made it there, it's because it has something. For those who enjoy horror that makes you think alongside the scares and leaves uncomfortable questions after it ends, this one looks like exactly that. Put it on the radar. Number 8. How to Make a Killing. Glenn Powell, in action mode, has a very specific energy on screen, and that mode suits him extremely well. After Hitman and Twisters, it's clear he knows how to pick projects that fit him, and this one looks like exactly that streak continuing. How to Make a Killing puts him at the center of a thriller, where he has to figure out how to escape a situation that got far more complicated than he expected when he walked into it. The title immediately signals some irony in the premise, which is promising the best recent action films know exactly what they are and don't try to be anything else. It won't win awards and isn't trying to. But for a night where you want solid entertainment without being asked for too much, this has what you need. Number 7. Primavera. Italian romantic drama on the big screen. There's something about that Mediterranean aesthetic that automatically shifts your rhythm, the landscape, the light, the pace of every conversation. Primavera is a story about love, loss, and finding something new when you thought there was nothing left to feel. Italian dramatic cinema has a solid tradition of exactly this kind of story. No cheap emotional punches, no manufactured feeling, just something that builds slowly and leaves you at peace when it ends. The people behind it know what they're doing in this genre, and the little that's been shown confirms it. I'll be honest though, this one isn't for everyone. It requires patience and a willingness to move at a different speed than you're used to from commercial cinema. If that sounds like a problem, this probably isn't for you. But if you're looking for something genuine and unhurried, this delivers it best on a big screen. Number 6. Kraken. Norwegian marine creature horror. Norway already proved with Troll it knows how to make monster cinema without falling into the usual American cliches. And there's something about that Scandinavian aesthetic, the visual coldness, the brutal grandeur of northern landscapes that makes threats feel more real than Hollywood productions with twice the budget. Kraken promises creatures in deep water and people who have to survive something that has no intention of letting them leave. Early footage is promising, and the director builds tension progressively without spending it all in the first few minutes. It still has open questions on paper, but for those who enjoy monster cinema with its own personality rather than the standard formula, this has exactly the kind of difference worth seeking out. Number 5. Hostile Takeover. Michael Jai White at the center. For indie action fans, that's already the only signal you need: real fights, done right without shortcuts. The story follows a man who has to recover what was taken from him by force, and the solution he finds doesn't involve lawyers. Low-budget action cinema has a freedom that blockbusters don't. It can go further in the choreography because it isn't protecting millionaire stars or worrying about ratings. White is one of the best in the business for physically convincing action that doesn't rely on visual effects to work. The fights feel real, and the protagonist knows exactly what to do with his body on screen. Don't expect elaborate plot twists, it isn't promising those, but what it does promise, it delivers. Number 4. Protector. Milla Jovovich back in an action thriller, and in this genre she almost always delivers exactly what she promises. Protector puts her in the role of someone who has to protect a target from threats that turn out to be far more complex and dangerous than they first appeared. Resident Evil proved for years she can carry this type of film practically solo, with that mix of apparent fragility and real toughness that very few actors pull off convincingly without it feeling performed. The production looks solid, and the thriller pace promises the right characteristics to keep you engaged throughout. It doesn't reinvent the genre and isn't trying to. With Jovovich in front, the result is almost always worth the evening. For fans of her previous work, this has exactly what they're looking for. Number 3. Peaky Blinders. The Immortal Man. 6 seasons of a crime drama about a Romani gangster family in post-WWI Birmingham turned Tommy Shelby into one of the most iconic characters in recent television history. That's Peaky Blinders. Now, Cillian Murphy, Oscar winner, puts the flat cap back on for the feature film, picking up the story during World War II. Tommy returns from self-imposed exile when his son gets tangled in a Nazi plot to collapse the British economy using counterfeit currency manufactured in concentration camps. Barry Keoghan makes his franchise debut as Erasmus Shelby, and Rebecca Ferguson and Tim Roth join as new faces. Series director Tom Harper maintains the dense, suffocating atmosphere that made the show what it is, with cinematography as sharp as ever. Critics gave it 92% on Rotten Tomatoes, and it pulled 25 million views in its first 3 days on Netflix. Some feel it plays more like an extended episode than a proper film, but for fans, it delivers the closure they've been waiting 4 years to get, and for newcomers, it's not a bad place to start. Number 2. Man on Fire. A man with no memory, no identity, no idea who he was before waking up, and the world clearly wants him dead for reasons he doesn't understand himself yet. Man on Fire with Yahya Abdul-Mateen II on Netflix sounds very good. Abdul-Mateen comes from Aquaman and Watchmen and has the physical and dramatic presence this kind of character demands to genuinely work on screen. The amnesia thriller where each flashback reveals something darker than the last is one of the most addictive formats when executed. Well, it doesn't let you pause, doesn't let you breathe, and every new scene reframes everything you thought you understood. Netflix hasn't revealed much of the screenplay yet, but the casting and the concept are pointing in the right direction. One of the more interesting Netflix bets of the year for fans of action thrillers with real mystery underneath. Number 1. The Drama. Already mentioned earlier in the list, and here it is again at number 1 because it belongs here. Zendaya and Pattinson under A24 is the combination generating the most genuine excitement in cinema in a very long time. The first filtered screenings describe a film unlike anything we've seen recently in contemporary romantic drama. A24 is being extremely careful about what it shows before the official release, and when a studio at that level holds its material that close for that long, it's because they know exactly what they have and don't need to pre-sell it. Zendaya in the most ambitious role of her career so far. Pattinson in the best creative moment of his. My pick for Film of the Year until someone proves otherwise. And that's the list for today. 12 films with a lot of potential to make noise in 2026. If you like this video, don't forget to leave your like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss our upcoming videos. See you soon. Thanks for watching.